is on the path to political engagement. So no agreement with the EU, but
Good day, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network, where we give you the news, events, and stories abound in the state system. ATN's appetite for in-depth, unbiased, and factual reportage is the driving principle for this program in order to bring government activities to the doorstep of the people. First, we'll go through the highlights of today's reports. In River State, Wike's loyalists threaten attack on Fubara's property. Powers stare out.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honourable
You human trafficker.
Honourable
Welcome back, and now we dive straight into the details for today. Former local government chairman in River State on Wednesday accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara of sponsoring the Tuesday attacks by hunger protesters in the Port Harcourt house of his predecessor, Nyesom Wike. While warning that Fubara did not have the monopoly of violence, the ex-local government chairman threatened to mobilize their men to equally unleash an attack on Fubara's properties. Amid the nationwide hunger protest, demonstrators had on Tuesday marched to Wike's along Ada George Road in Port Harcourt and laid siege to it, changing war songs and calling the ex-governor unprintable names. It took the presence of and vigilance of policemen to resist the protesters who attempted to invade the mansion. Speaking on Wednesday under the aegis of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, River State chapter, the chairman who were elected during Wike's tenure at River State as River State residents of the minister, we will also organize our people and go to Forces Avenue. We have the capacity to cow anybody here. He knows it, and we know his properties and those of his cronies. All they have achieved has just been mountainous looting of River's funds. What happened yesterday at Ada George repeats itself, Fubara will not even be here to govern the state. We will not allow the FCT minister, and I saw a full presence of policemen. So I don't know what they are talking about. They are drowning people looking for where to clutch a straw. But if you ask me truly, the information I have is that they have been holding meetings. The one they held today is just the opening one. They have been holding meetings being sponsored by former Obiakpo local government chairman, where they were trying to do everything to turn the protest into something that will culminate to a state of emergency. But all those attempts were the machinations of the wicked. The Bible has said that he disappointed the devices of the enemy so that they will not practice their enterprise. What they are doing is like the last kick of a dying horse. They are already gone, and the court has pronounced them as such. Senate has raised concerns over the $1.5 billion approved in 2021 for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery with little or no results. Okoyemi Bamilade, chairperson, Senate ad hoc committee to investigate the alleged economic sabotage in the Nigerian petroleum industry, raising the concern during an interactive session with stakeholders on Wednesday in Abuja. Mr. Bamidele, who is also the Senate leader, said it was unfair and wrong to treat public companies shabbily while private businesses were flourishing and thriving. He recalled that the Federal Executive Council had approved the plan by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources to rehabilitate and turn around Port Harcourt refinery with $1.5 billion. Mr. Bamidele expressed concerns about the dysfunction. He said also of serious concern was the importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into the country. Mr. Bamidele observed that the federal government will turn around the state-owned refineries in Kaduna, Port Harcourt and Warri, but the refineries are not functioning. In 2021 specifically, the Federal Executive Council approved $1.5 billion for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt refinery, yet this investment has not yielded significant returns. For us in the Senate, we believe it is unfair and unpatriotic to treat government or public corporations as an orphan while private businesses flourish and thrive. He said the National Assembly was ready to carry out the investigative hearing with all sense of honor and responsibility. Moving on, Mele Kyari, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, refers to what is happening in the media. Targeted personal attack on my person, on the institution, and we all know how this works. They are deliberate, they are calculated, so that creates the impression that NNPCL and our leadership are doing anything to create economic sabotage in our country. It is far from it. This company has grown. We are proud to say this. From a lost company for 43 years of a profit-making company today, said Mr. Kyari. Also, Heniken Lokpobiri, Minister for State for Petroleum Resources, said that the oil sector was bedeviled by misinformation. This Senate should do Nigerians a favor by televising the proceedings of this committee live. Because of the fundamental nature of this investigation that has to do with the alleged economic sabotage with the importation of substandard products into the country, we urge the Senate to ensure we do a live broadcast, he said. He said the government was committed to ensuring that local industries and all stakeholders in the oil sector were protected. Also speaking at the investigative hearing, Aliyu Suleiman, Chief Strategy Officer, Dangote Industry Limited, said the refinery started full production in March. Wale Edun, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, in his remarks said the increase in crude oil production would stabilize the country's foreign exchange market. Economic and Financial Crime Zonal Office on Tuesday reportedly invited officials of the Ogun State government in connection with an ongoing investigation. The conversation with our correspondent on Wednesday. He said, I just called our Ibadan Zonal office and it was confirmed that some officials of the state government were invited for a chat in respect to such a person has been indicted. Meanwhile, our correspondent gathered from a reputable source that 5 officials of them, ex-local government chairman Adedayo, had written what was supposed to be a private letter to a former governor of the state, Chief Olusegun Osoba, last year August, accusing Governor Abiodun of diverting about 10.8 billion naira meant for the development of the council areas. The letter, however, found its way into the media, becoming a matter of public discourse. Adedayo had also forwarded a petition to the EFCC calling for an investigation of the state government for the alleged financial infraction. The state government, however, denied the allegation, explaining that it rather augmented the monthly federal government allocation sent to the local government, or else many of them would have found it impossible to fulfill their financial obligations, like payments of salaries, amongst others. Adedayo, after his reported allegations against the state government, was later impeached and he is currently standing trial before the Abeokuta Magistrate. Speaking with our correspondent on Wednesday, Adedayo said he heard about the invitation of some state officials by the EFCC over the matter. Yes, I heard about it on Tuesday. I am sure it is about the petition I sent to the EFCC. A lie can travel 1,000 miles. The truth will catch up with it within a few seconds. A friend told me they were granted on an administrative bail so they could return with some documents which they claimed would exonerate them. There's more news, but do not forget to connect with us on our socials, our ATN socials, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok on Tuesday evening, saying he was being investigated. Also, the Plateau and Bauchi governments, which imposed a curfew in the heat of the protest earlier in the week, have relaxed it as normalcy returned to the two states yesterday. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tugar, who gave the warning while briefing members of the diplomatic corps in Abuja, however, highlighted the importance of cordial relations internationally. Recall that the protests, which gained momentum in major cities such as Lagos, Benin, Osun, Oyo, Kano, Gombe, Yobe, Borno, Niger, and freedom of expression, while committing to investigating the responsible for violence to justice, Idris thanked the diplomatic committee for their support and assured that the worst of the unrest is over. He expressed optimism that the government's policy interventions would yield positive results for the nation. He said, "I want to assure your excellencies that the federal government has launched an investigation into the violence that we saw in the last week to identify and bring to justice all those responsible of such unfortunate incidents in the future. I also want to PM, long after the close of work, a troop of heavily armed security operatives invaded the Labour House, Central Business District, Abuja, which serves as the national headquarters and secretariat of the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. The security operatives, some from the Nigeria Police Force, some wearing black t-shirts, presumably from the Department of State Services, DSS, and others on outright mufti, swooped on the 10th floor of the NLC and arrested the security operatives on duty, and then commanded materials used for the End Bad Governance protests. The Nigeria Labour Congress condemns in its... Even in the dark days of the military rule, NSC secretariats were never invaded and ransacked by security agencies. Today is indeed a very sad day of our democracy. Just this afternoon, which was yesterday, the National Executive Council, NEC, of the NLC took note and vehemently condemned the high-handed manner that security agents manhandled protesters in many parts of the country and needless bloodshed has ensued. We also condemned the sweeping mass arrests of those perceived to have led the protests. The NEC also frowned at the reckless use of treason to describe the protests and demanded for moderation. What we did not see coming was the invasion of Labour House by masked and heavily armed security operatives hours later. In the light of the foregoing and the ominous sign it portends for democratic rights, freedom of speech and association, and the unimpeachable right of citizens to protest peacefully on any issue that they feel strongly about, we call on the International Committee to take note of the deterioration of democratic principles in the bid to turn Nigeria into a police state. Given the experience of the leadership of the NLC in recent times, at the acquisition of the public space and channels for constructive engagement, dialogue, and negotiations in light of the excruciating difficulties that Nigerians are going through right now would only make matters worse. A stitch in time might still save 9. You are watching Government and Public Reports and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this short break.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
beyond the lines, across the ocean. We bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
You are a human
On the point.
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
You are a human
On the point.
Welcome back to Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of our stories. The Senate has questioned the $1.5 billion approved in 2021 for the turnaround maintenance of the Port Harcourt Refining and Petrochemical Company with little or no results. It has also vowed to probe allegations of sabotage to the supply of crude oil to domestic refineries as the National Assembly invited officials of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Dangote Petroleum Refinery, among others, for the probe. It raised this concern amid the pervasive allegations of the Federation is undergoing a truly challenging period, pointing out that the distribution and supply of refined petroleum products has been irregular and problematic in the recent history of our fatherland. The long queues at filling stations are obviously a testament of the challenge, a situation whereby we now depend almost entirely on the importation of these products, even though we daily supply the global oil market no fewer than 2% of its crude requirements, to say the least. We also have in hand the grievous issue of national concern that directly borders on the importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into the country under different carry out its mandate fairly and impartially. While insisting that nobody will be untouchable, Bamidele said the task of ridding the petroleum industry of malfeasance is urgent and must be carried out in the spirit of nationalism and patriotism. We are ready to carry out this with all sense of honor and responsibility. We are also taking as a federation. In line with our mandate, we will unravel factors and forces aiding sabotage in our petroleum industry. From our findings, we will craft a legislative framework that will entrench global best practices in the industry, open it up for more investment, especially in the midstream and downstream sectors, and end vicious regimes of subterfuge in the petroleum industry. We are utterly committed to the mandate. We shall carry it out without fear and favor. We shall be equitable, fair, and just to all parties to promote and protect the strategic national interest of our fatherland, Bamidele said. He therefore promised that the National Assembly is ready to carry out the investigative hearing with all sense of honor and responsibility, citing the impeccable professional backgrounds of members of the committee. Also at a session, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority and some of its stakeholders declared that there should be counted out of any act of economic sabotage in the sector. In his remarks, the Group Chief Executive Officer, NNPC, Mele Kyari, said, the company owned by over 200 million Nigerians should be counted out of any act of sabotage. Kyari all relevant stakeholders in order to grow and not die. However, during his presentation, a subtle attack was made against Dangote by National Chairman of Depot and Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abdul Kabir Aliyu, who said Dangote declared 133 billion naira profits on sugar sales in Nigeria within the last 6 months. He said such a feat was made possible for Dangote by allowing him to monopolize the sugar business in Nigeria. The petroleum sector, he added, should not be allowed to be monopolized by any person or company, saying monopoly kills business. Similarly, the national president of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Abubakar Mai Gandhi, in his presentation, loudly admonished the committee against monopoly, allow other investors to participate. NNPC is doing its best, but should please improve on the supply of products to retail outlets across the country to end the incessant queues at filling station. In his remarks, Edun said the increase in crude oil production would stabilize the country's foreign exchange markets while expressing confidence in the leadership of the ad hoc committee to conduct an unbiased and impartial investigation.